Hey guys, this is Courtney Carson from Cosmic Clarity Astrology, and today we're going to speak to the 2026 forecast for Virgo risings and sun. And I'm also doing all the other signs, so I've done Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. If you want to check them out, I have a 2026 playlist. But let's go ahead and dive into this. I'm going to break it into 4 quarters and look at the major astrological events of those quarters. And I have pulled cards as well for each of them. And we're going to be discussing what's happening and the blessings that you're going to receive in each quarter. So we're going to start off with the overarching theme for Virgos in 2026. And I got the wisdom card. So the wisdom could speak to you guys potentially learning something new this year. You are having a shift. Well, I don't know if I want to get into all the astrology yet, I think, but I guess I'll just mention you are having Uranus shift from Taurus in the ninth to Gemini in your 10th, where it's going to remain. And this is going to be happening, I believe it's in April. Let me see my notes. So let me just speed this ahead so you can see. This is going to be happening in early May, late April. And I really feel like that's a time where we can start to synthesize and put into practice some of the things that we learned in the previous cycle with Uranus in the ninth. The ninth house is often related to studies. It's related to just learning more and growing more as an individual, or having a shift in your perspective and belief systems and your understanding of the world. So I think a lot of us Virgo risings have been going through a long cycle of development and growth. And I think that in that late April, early May time, when Uranus shifts into the 10th, again, I think we're going to start applying that into the real world. So now that I have studied this thing, now how do I go out and actualize it? Now that I've had this shift in perspective or beliefs, or I've learned about this thing, how do I then go out and implement some of the things that I've learned? And so I really feel like it's an application of knowledge, which at the very core of it is wisdom. Wisdom comes from experience and going through things and then applying that into the real world. So that's very much related to what I think you're going to be going through this year. And I think for those of you who are maybe turning 36, this could be like an especially important year for you guys, just because that's coming through in the cards. So people might turn to you for your wisdom. You might be teaching more this year. Or again, you could be potentially learning, but with Uranus shifting, I almost feel like you're going to be more in the application of knowledge rather than the learning of knowledge, even though we're always learning. So let's go ahead and dive into each quarter. So we're going to start off with quarter one, which is January through March. And I have this broken down into the themes, or like the events that are going to happen, and then the blessings and advice. So we're starting off with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's happening at 0 Aries, which is in your 8th house. So this could be a time in which you guys are kind of confronted with your personal power and maybe the lack thereof. Saturn-Neptune conjunction is a really major astrological event. I think I'm going to do a whole separate video on this. But I think if you guys have been holding yourself back, or if you've been having anxiety or mental health issues or depression or issues around trusting people or trusting your own intuition, or maybe issues around intimacy or money, Saturn-Neptune conjunction here can kind of bring those things to the surface in order for you to have a fresh start with them. Saturn-Neptune together, when combined, creates this kind of disillusionment with the way things are going. We start to realize, this isn't for me. I need to make a change. I need to level up in some way. I can't be held back by my limiting beliefs anymore. I can't be held down by the past. I can't keep going with these patterns and maybe like unhealthy attachments or unhealthy like lifestyles or habits. I can really see here the 8th house is often about losing something, or getting rid of something, purging something. And Saturn and Neptune together at 0 Aries on February 20th is also about that. Let me actually just go to that day so you guys can see. It's at 0 Aries, which is really significant because it's the first degree of the first sign of the zodiac. So it is like the beginning of the beginning. the conception of something. So we are having this like moment of the seed planted, or this moment of conception. And again, I think that this is largely around a new concept around the interior world and one's mental health, and the way that you take care of yourself mentally and emotionally, especially in your relationship with like the past. Because the eighth house is often where we have past events that are like emotional residue that linger with us, and then they influence us or inhibit us in certain ways moving forward. So I could see you guys really confronting those issues head on and recognizing where you want to feel empowered, where you want to look within yourself and notice these certain patterns and overcome them, not be holding on to these kind of old cycles and maybe old relationships or old stories that you could be, again, inhibited by previously. So I think, again, I'll do a whole video on this because there's a lot to that, but I'm just going to kind of leave it there for now, I think. We also are going to have a solar eclipse in Aquarius a few days before this. So these events are really happening in tandem with one another. So if you have any planets around 28 degrees of Aquarius, then this is going to, or even the fixed signs, which would be Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio. If you have any planets around 28 degrees of those fixed signs, then this eclipse is really going to speak loudly in your personal life. And then having that Saturn-Neptune conjunction on top of it is going to kind of double down on the energy. So this Aquarius eclipse in many ways is some kind of fresh start for you guys in your sixth house, which is the area of work and health and routine. So if you have been feeling like you haven't been maybe productive enough, or maybe you're in a job that feels really uninspiring to you, or maybe you've been allowing your health to kind of go by the wayside, especially with that South Node in Virgo. A lot of my Virgos could have had issues come up related to health over the past year and a half that you're recognizing you need to change. Maybe you gained weight, or you had an underlying health issue that is presenting itself more strongly in this last year and a half. So this Aquarius eclipse, this Aquarius solar eclipse, is really speaking to us needing to kind of kickstart a new beginning in that area of our life to ensure that we have maybe more of a routine, again, maybe better care for our health and things like that. But I think the greatest thing that we're going to gain at this time is going to be some level of clarity. And that's something that I see really strongly in the cards, which I guess I'm going to come back to the cards. I don't want to bring those in yet. But I think that Aquarius often has to deal with an opportunity for enlightenment, where we are able to rise above a situation or see a greater perspective on a situation, or find solutions that are pragmatic and helpful on a wide scale. So I think we could honestly be looking at our life in general and how all the systems of our life fit together. And this could be really speaking to any area of life. So how do my relationships maybe drain or affect my energy? How does my money or my food and my resources, how do those things affect the way that I show up? So, and so on and so forth. So basically, I just think we're going to be really digging into our day-to-day life and like our schedule and like our systems and our bodily systems and how we show up for work and our presence. But those are going to all be affected by every area of life. So we're seeing the integration of these things. So I notice that when I'm in a bad relationship, I don't sleep as well. So my health isn't as good. So I don't show up at work as well. And so you see, again, the integration of these different areas of life, and you can start to piece together what needs to go. And again, that Saturn-Neptune conjunction, the 8th, is a purging and a releasing. So releasing toxic habits, releasing toxic patterns and thoughts and people and emotions, and maybe, again, poor spending habits or whatever. And some of you guys on a more practical level with Saturn Neptune in the 8th could have some kind of loss or change in the family that then creates maybe a change in like inheritance or like a mortgage or government funding, because the 8th house is also finances from external sources or from a partner. So there could be some changes in that regard in a more like practical sense. But I just see us having maybe an overhaul in how we show up in our day-to-day lives, how we empower ourselves to be more productive and to be more, I feel like, more in alignment with the things that we really want. So, and again, a big part of that is being willing to leave behind certain things. And this is also really emphasized by the next eclipse that's happening on March 3rd, which is going to be in your sign. So this is going to be a lunar eclipse at 12 degrees of Virgo. And again, big deal because we've been having eclipses in your sign. So you've been kind of going through this larger process of awakening and releasing. And I think a good example of this is Blake Lively, who has this massive stellium in Virgo, and she's been going through this huge bout of public scrutiny. And in the recent texts that were released, she expressed how she was going through an identity crisis. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because the South Node moving over all of her personal planets will do that, because it releases like these things that you've built your identity on or your self-concept on that are fragile and unhealthy or unstable or unrealistic in some way, like unreal. So a Virgo lunar eclipse can also be like that. Like it's stimulating that same energy of recognizing maybe what self-concepts we've built up in our mind that are actually coming from an unrealistic place or an unhealthy place, and releasing those either expectations or standards or ways of seeing ourselves so that we can actually move more towards a higher enlightened state. So maybe you've, like in this case with Blake Lively, maybe she sees herself as being, powerful and having this ability to dominate and I don't know, whatever. Maybe she sees herself as highly influential, impactful, but maybe that was built on a foundation that wasn't right for her. And so it exposes the cracks in the foundation to make her realize maybe I am powerful, but not because I have this career, but because I'm a strong person and I help people or whatever. So I'm just trying to like give an example to illustrate how this could show up in our lives, how we could start to realize that, again, these things that we identified with start to shift, and we might still identify with certain qualities, but we might realize that they originate again from a different place. So another example might be, I've been working with my therapist on recognizing where my self-worth comes from. And maybe too much of my self-worth comes from people pleasing. So maybe I can still have the self-worth, but detach it from that origin of people pleasing, because that is an unhealthy and unstable place to derive like self-satisfaction and self-worth. So this is basically our way of releasing these things that we've built our identity on that are just not true, not right, not healthy. Virgo eclipses can also, on a more practical sense in our everyday lives, can bring up existing health issues. We could experience some type of loss or some type of change that forces us to navigate a transition in our lives. And that's often when we start to doubt or question ourselves and look at our identity differently, because we're going through some kind of like evolution in our lives. I don't see negative energy in the cards, so I just want to speak to that. Like, I mean, I think it will depend on your personal chart, but I think for many of us, this is actually going to be a time where we're losing things that are benefiting us, or we gain a lot as a result of that loss. So I don't think that this is actually going to be a negative time. Even though the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, the 8th, may feel scary initially, I actually see it as quite empowering. So let's get into the cards for this time. So one of the first cards that I pulled is the Tower card, and this card speaks to stability, to reliability, to dealing with authority figures or some type of institution or like governmental agency, like this idea of kind of like an existing organization that has its own methods and standards and traditions and things like that. So you might have to deal with that. You might have to do some kind of paperwork with all these papers flying on here. Maybe you're submitting something for like approval or to be recognized for something. Maybe you're having to go through to get a visa or to get a lease signed at a new place or to sell your house and go through a real estate agent. I mean, maybe that's not the best example, but something here of like having to deal with maybe the government or with taxes or, paperwork. Like, I think that could be one of the things that happens with Saturn Neptune in the eighth house, because it can often deal with, again, big business of some sort or these institutions at large in regards to money. But this can also speak to having greater, like an overhaul over, and again, this is really speaking to that Aquarius solar eclipse in the sixth, of creating more of a structure and like a steadfastness or reliability or plan in your everyday life. So maybe you change jobs and that changes your routine, or maybe you get more organized if you struggle with that. Maybe you learn how to shift certain priorities to make sure that your health is more of a priority, or maybe some issue crops up in your life and forces you to adjust your schedule, or you just have some personal goals that do that. So whatever it is, I see you really focusing on the order and structure of things and maybe having to deal with some level of bureaucracy to get something to move forward. The next card that I got for themes of this quarter is the Garden card, which speaks to life in the public sphere. So this could be hanging out with your friends, or going out on the town, going to concerts, going on trips, meeting new people, socializing on the internet, networking, promoting yourself. So there's this energy of being like having a shine to you, having an extroverted quality to you. So people maybe are noticing you more. There's a visibility factor. And then there is also a social factor of this Garden card. So I can not only see you being quite productive and disciplined in your personal life and really getting things done, but I can also see you having a good social life. And I think that you're going to be quite balanced between these two elements in this first quarter, January through March of 2026. Another theme that I see coming up, we have the Hermit card. The Hermit speaks to internal reflection or introspection. The Hermit is when somebody spends time alone to analyze their own behavior, to go to therapy, to journal, to walk in nature, to pray, to meditate, and to come to answers that the soul is asking. So when something is going wrong, when you're emotionally dissatisfied, or when you feel things are shifting and you want to gain a strong footing, this is the card that we have to turn to, or the energy and activities that we have to turn to. And this reflects the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the eighth, where we're supposed to be analyzing how we might be kind of carrying over some old paradigms and how we can step out of those paradigms, how we can grow past them, and again, empower ourselves to want for more and to do more, instead of kind of passively moving through life on autopilot in a way where we're just accepting maybe old behaviors or stuff from old people or whatever. It's like, no, we're becoming more intentional, more and a greater level of like consciousness, and I want to say control, although I don't necessarily like that word, but yeah, some level of like control, I guess, over our decisions, so that we're not just being affected on an unconscious level by things that have always affected us. No more autopilot. That's what I see for that Hermit. And then we come to the Four of Wands, which is a card of celebration. And it's also a card of marriage. So some of you guys could be just attending weddings. You could have like announcements of weddings. You could have a new relationship forming and connecting with new people, an intimate and romantic relationship, or friendships and other kinds of connections. You do have Jupiter moving through your 11th, which is a social house. And so you guys could be really, again, kind of more visible at this time. You could be attending more events. So there's an opportunity for basically socialization and relationship development on some level here. We also see the Seven of Cups and the Queen of Swords, which I think really work in tandem. So the Seven of Cups represents having a lot of options and a lot of ideas and not always having clarity on how to move forward. And the Queen of Swords is somebody who knows exactly what they want. They have a very clear plan and they're very good at saying no to a lot of things because they want to ensure that they focus on their priorities. So I think that you're going to embody both energies this quarter. And I think you're going to shift from imagination and dreaming and options and fantasy to choosing something, going all in on something, creating a schedule around something, clarity around it, dedication around it. This could also speak to relationships as well. If there's something in your life where you've been unclear about what you want with a person or with a career, but definitely could involve other people. If there's some element of that going on as well, I could see you guys gaining more clarity, having important conversations, setting clear boundaries, and just making sure that there is this agreement, this mutual understanding is what I'm trying to say here. Both people getting on the same page. So if this could deal with relationships in any sense, like basically you and someone else. So if you are working with a company, that's a relationship with that company. So if they have been saying that they're going to give you a raise, but they've been really like wishy-washy, this is you getting clarity and defining when is that happening? How much is it? What does that look like? What do I need to do to get that? And whatnot. So that's just an example. Or maybe you are the one who's been really unclear and you've been back and forth about something in your life. I see you guys really honing in on your sword of discernment. And again, cutting away things that are not priorities and getting down to the truth of the matter and creating strong boundaries and communicating those boundaries so that you guys can get on the same page with whatever type of relationship this is. If this is a relationship with an entity, a person, an event, anything. Okay, so that's what's happening in the first quarter. What your advice is. We have She Who Hopes, Love, Hope, and Relationships. So first of all, if you want love or if you're interacting with relationships in general, this card is saying to have hope about the relationship. This could also speak to another area of life though. So if this is like what I was saying, let's just say the example of the raise in the company. This is saying to have hope. This is not just because you're gaining clarity and you're maybe cutting away things and saying no to things to make sure that you have a focus, but I still see that is going to lead to a positive result. So I think this is saying to not worry, I guess, because it can be quite easy with Saturn and Neptune in the 8th to worry about things. So the best thing that you can do here is imagine the highest possible outcome and have hope that if you are leading with your heart and sincerity and optimism, that you will get the best kind of results back, whether this is about a partnership or some other type of desire. We also have She Who Guides, New Path Guide, and Renewal. And then She Who Creates, Creativity, Originality, and Spontaneity. So I think that your other piece of advice is to be willing to have a new beginning here. And this is going to be, I think, the case for everybody because we are having that Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries. We're having this Aquarius eclipse. We're all going to have solar eclipse. We're all going to have some kind of new start here of some sort. For some of you, this might regard a path that inspires you to create something or that asks you to do something differently than you've done it before with this originality or the spontaneity. Like maybe something comes to you in a sudden way and you're kind of put on the spot and you have to decide, do I want to move forward with this or not? So your advice here is to embrace what is new, embrace the opportunities that come to you. If you have a creative idea, embrace that idea and go down that path. And don't hold yourself back out of fear that you might not be able to do it. So say yes to life and say yes to this new opportunity coming your way. What blessings are you getting this quarter from January through March? We have the 8 of Wands and the Ace of Wands. So I feel like you guys are going to be really productive. Like I said, I think you're going to have a lot of opportunities come your way and you might have to say no to some of them. But with the Ace of Wands, I do think that there is a new opportunity that is going to really stand above the rest. And that is the one that I think you guys are going to decide to commit to. With the Queen of Pentacles and the Magician card after this, I feel like that opportunity is going to be something that you can really build upon. So this doesn't have to be something entirely new, though the Ace of Wands often represents something that is brand new. So it doesn't mean that you're only going to be working on one new thing, but it could mean that you are adding one new thing to an existing foundation of your life that you enjoy. So I see a new path opening up for you. And again, that doesn't mean that everything in your life is changing, but I think you're adding something. And with the Queen of Pentacles and Magician, I think that you're going to be in a very disciplined phase where you are going to create a schedule again where you are going to carve out time to make room for that new thing. And you're going to get really good at starting to manifest, especially financially, as a result of doing this. So maybe you decide to pick up a side hobby. Maybe you decide to get really into like budgeting or investing, or maybe you meet a new relationship and that ends up being something really significant and somehow saves you money or helps you start manifesting more things into your life. So it could be really anything, but I'm seeing some kind of new path come to you and you building significantly as a result of that new path or building on that path. So something that is going to help you gain stability and finances as a result of following that new idea or new path. Again, I think one of the biggest blessings is going to be finally having a lack of like getting rid of the lack of clarity is what I mean to say. With the Two Swords in reverse followed by the King of Wands, not only do I feel like you guys are really creatively inspired this quarter, I think you're going to have, again, maybe a lot of ideas, but I think eventually you're going to get to a place where you trim down the fat and see what the most important idea is of all of them. And you're going to know exactly what you want to do to pursue that thing. You're going to have some kind of plan in motion, some kind of steps that illuminate themselves, and no longer feeling like you're on the fence or something is undecided in your life. I can see you committing. I can see you saying yes. I can see you potentially, again, saying no to some other things. But I think with the King of Wands, you're going to know exactly what lights you up, and it's going to fuel your energy. So some of you guys might find that you are able to produce more, do more. Maybe you're more magnetic. Maybe you have more socializing. Maybe you're more creative or more inspired. But it comes as a result of getting really clear on a decision and what your priorities are. So that's what I'm seeing for the first quarter for you guys. Let's go ahead and dive into the second quarter. And remember, you can always re-watch these videos and click on the timestamps because I'll have them organized by quarter in the timestamps. And don't forget to support my channel. I am trying to double my subscribers in 2026. So if you would like to support me and be a part of that, please subscribe and like the video, hype the video, comment down below. All of that really helps and I really appreciate it. All right, so up next we have quarter two for Virgo risings. This is going to be from April through June. There are only a few major transits happening during this time, and they're all really going on, really just two at the end of June. So June 20th, we have Chiron moving into Taurus, and June 30th, Jupiter moving into Leo. Very significant things, but it's really not to the end of the quarter that things are stirring. That doesn't mean that nothing significant's happening, but I just think that a lot of the dysfunction will start to happen in the third quarter, and this is kind of leading up to that. Just general astrological dysfunction, not personal dysfunction. But on June 20th, like I mentioned, Chiron moves into Taurus in your ninth house, and it's only going to remain here until mid-September, and then it will start to go back into Aries. So I think that this Chiron moving into your ninth house could potentially instigate a new development of one's faith. The ninth house is often related to things that are foreign, that have to deal with kind of paperwork for things that are related to foreign governments or personal government. It's related to teaching. It's related to religious and spiritual practices and beliefs. And Chiron can bring both a sense of purpose and a sense of potential emotional crisis in those areas. So it could feel like we start to question the feeling of, abundance, for example. So, but I do like that Jupiter 10 days later is moving into Leo in your 12th, because that does inspire this feeling that there is a kind of universal hand guiding you, or an angelic presence guiding you. It feels like a deeply, these two transits feel like deeply spiritual and introspective in nature, where you start reflecting on your sense of abundance and trust in the universe, your place in the universe as well. And so I think a lot of these things can call us maybe into a deeper spiritual or meditative practice, or we might be called to adjust our sense of like our North Star in the world and our purpose in the world. So we might feel like we shift focus, we shift attention. Maybe we slow down a little bit. Maybe we find that the things that we were so certain about, that we were holding on to, we recognize that maybe they're not as significant as we thought. Maybe these worldly matters and these big goals are not as huge as we thought they were. Chiron moving into Taurus can have that kind of crisis, almost like existential crisis around, materialism, being in the sign of Taurus, and our beliefs about the material world. And Jupiter moving into 12th, again, it's a very spiritual kind of enlightenment and experience, but that doesn't mean it's always comfortable. And I can see that in the cards with the Empress in reverse and the Two of Pentacles in reverse. I feel like you guys might just start to realize that, like, maybe the way that I've been juggling all these things and trying to make money and trying to attract abundance in life, like maybe I'm questioning my pursuit of that and how I go about that. Maybe I decide with the Two of Pentacles in reverse that it's a time for me to slow down and eliminate some of my goals, or to reflect more on why I am pursuing certain goals, to have a deeper purpose and alignment with it rather than simply material gain. The Empress in reverse can also suggest this feeling of like maybe not, because when it's upright, we feel like abundance is everywhere, and we see all these financial opportunities, all these windfalls that could come our way, and we feel like we can just sit back and relax and receive them. When it's in reverse, we might kind of wonder about that. We might look at the world and be like, we see lack, we see where there's suffering, we see where things are hard for people or for ourselves, and it could make us, again, kind of put things into perspective in a way. That doesn't mean that every Virgo is going to go through financial lack, but I do think that there could be some feeling that shifts on a mental, emotional plane around the view of abundance and like the view of the world and the material world and how it all functions in society. And I think with the Two of Pentacles, we could really go through like a reprioritization where we start to see what really matters. And with the Page of Swords, I think we're going to have a lot of new ideas around what that looks like. Almost like our brain is opening up to seeing another layer to the world that was maybe a hologram that was always here, but we just couldn't see it. And then our eyes open, we can see that hologram on the existing material world. And it's like this spiritual, energetic hologram. And you're like, I'm seeing so many things now that I never thought about before. And now that I see that, it's opening my mind to this whole world, this whole other kind of world of possibilities, essentially. And the Page of Swords can indicate that you're just looking at things from a totally new vantage point, and that allows you to come up with maybe new ideas, new solutions, new things that matter to you, and maybe questions, a lot of questions around what is important and what isn't important. We have the Knight of Swords in reverse after that. So I think that you guys are going to realize that running and rushing through life has not suited you. Maybe you recognize that it's time for you to slow down a little bit to come back to yourself. And again, and one of the major themes for this quarter is the home card. Maybe you really start to prioritize your family. Maybe you move to be near your family, or you move homes to live in a community that aligns more with your spiritual purpose or your like desires in life. Like maybe you slow down a bit in life and you move into a place that allows you to have more space, more time in nature, more connection to certain people. Like I just see a change in priorities, a change in pace, a change in location. And it's like, for example, if you're super busy, career woman, and then you get pregnant, instantly you change your mind, you change your values, you change your priorities, because now all of a sudden you're bringing a soul into the world, and that completely is going to revolutionize your life. So I can see something like that happening, where we're going to be shifting to a place where we might become a little bit more insular. Sometimes Jupiter, being such a social planet, moving into an isolated house like the 12th house, can make you maybe not always want to be super social. And you might just have like a richer inner world and spiritual world that is less focused on, again, productivity, material success, socializing. It's funny because last quarter was totally different. Like this is a major shift. And I think, again, you're going to be quite okay with slowing things down with this Knight of Swords in reverse. And you're going to see how going fast and going hard actually makes you feel chaotic or unproductive in a way. Because it's like so much... Yeah, I don't know. I could see you really looking at your use of energy and your time in a different way, and recognizing that always trying to like move isn't the goal. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to be productive still. That doesn't mean that you're not going to work, that you're not going to see people. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that there is going to be a shift around those things to where they are less of the central focus, and they become more of a support system in your life rather than a drain or something that you have to rush to do at all times. So yeah. And then we have the Four of Pentacles in reverse. Some of you guys might decide to make some kind of big financial investment. If you do buy a house, for example, this could be you spending money instead of saving money. This could be you not holding on as much to material possessions or valuing as much, like, again, making money. Maybe you're just not worried or thinking about it as much. Like maybe before you were feeling like, oh, there's not enough, so I have to make sure that I'm saving, or, I have to gain more and more. I'm seeing less of a consumption oriented mindset and more of a willingness to maybe give money to people and help people, or spend money on something that feels important to you, that is going to really enhance the quality of your life. Like I'm noticing that you guys are not going to be as afraid around that. This could also deal with intimacy as well, with the Four of Pentacles in reverse, where you're letting your guard down and you're really opening up so that when you are in connection and in relationship with people, you're really seeing them. You're really exposing yourself. You're really being vulnerable and intimate in a way. Whereas if you're moving so quickly and you're so focused on everything outside, you might not have that capacity to go to that depth with somebody. But I see you removing those guardrails, those guards, and letting somebody in, because you are creating a deeper, intimate relationship with yourself. Your inner world is growing and expanding. And so you're going to have more to share with somebody else. I also feel like you're going to have this feeling with Chiron, especially in the 12th, or Jupiter in the 12th. I mean, both of these, in Chiron in the 9th, both of them. With the Seven of Wands in reverse, I feel like you're going to see people less as an opponent and more as like a brother and sister in humanity. I think that you're going to start to see what universally connects us. You're going to start to see how similar we actually are, and the humanity and soul in each person, and valuing and respecting each person, and not feeling like you're on this high horse, or maybe that you have to like defend yourself against somebody who thinks differently than you. Like I feel like there's a softening of the edges and a letting your guard down to the point where you're seeing people through the heart and the soul rather than through the mind. So yeah, I'm just seeing like a less combative energy, a much more compassionate, tolerant, accepting, loving energy that you're going to emanate as a result of these two transits. So what's your advice? We have the she who loved once, fragile, secret love and rejection, and she who changes, transformation, change, and enchantment. So your advice really goes hand in hand with what I was saying, to be willing to be vulnerable. And I think that this is a huge piece of advice with Saturn moving through the eighth house, is to work on the blocks that you might have around relationship that has been built up because of relationship wounds and traumas. If people have fucked you over in the past, if people have disappointed you, if you've had really major losses that have made you scared to really rely on people, or if you've had betrayals that have made you scared to trust people, there's going to be some element of that that needs to be worked through as a result of this whole Saturn in the eighth house transit, but even really emphasized in this quarter. I think that you guys are going to face the fears and the doubts at times that do come up and create distance between you and other people. And those walls that come up that make you maybe see people as other, or that make you hide inside of your shell and become more internalized. So I think that that's what's going to be, part of your advice is this is what needs to be broken down and worked on and transformed, transmute that energy in those difficult past experiences so that you don't carry those shields forward with you into your new relationships. So what is your blessing for this quarter from April to June? We got the Star card. So the Star card can indicate some level of like fame or recognition. So it's funny because I feel like you guys are deprioritizing fame in a way, or like external material success, but I actually think that it might come to you much more easily now. It's almost like you stop caring and then it comes, right? So it's like, oh, I really want, and it's not fame necessarily, but it's like the obtainment of something that requires some kind of like wishing on a star or star power or having a hope come true, like a dream come true. There's something like that I feel like maybe you've really aspired towards. Maybe it does require some level of notoriety or someone giving you the okay or the acceptance of something, or whatever. But I see that coming to you. And again, I think it's kind of funny how life works, how you can be thinking about things from a soul level and soul perspective, and then all of a sudden on the material plane or on the public plane, you might start getting more recognition. And this could speak to Uranus being in the 10th, changes to your public reputation, to your career, to the way that people see you, and like more doors opening for you because of that. So I think that those are happening simultaneously as you are experiencing this kind of spiritual enlightenment, which is interesting. And no longer valuing those things as much. What other blessings are coming to you? We have, I also want to say, if you've like had, this also to me represents like a miracle. So if you've like had like let's say you've been trying to get pregnant, or you've had maybe a miscarriage or something like that in the past that has been like a failed attempt at something, or you lost something that was important to you, and you've really wanted something, but you've always come up against obstacles. I'm seeing with the Star card some kind of like Hail Mary, some miracle, some last attempt that creates that rainbow baby, or that thing that finally comes around. That's what I'm seeing with the Star, as some type of miraculous breakthrough because of your I feel like you're healing a lot, and it's creating space for this miracle to come through. I also just think Jupiter on the 12th brings miracles. I really do. Or like at least a very strong connection to our divine, like the divine presence all around us, and that energy of love from the divine, which is a miracle, like the energy of miracles. What other blessings are coming to you? We have the Seven of Swords in reverse, the Hanged Man, the King of Cups in reverse, and the Emperor. So the Seven of Swords in reverse, this is somebody who's like acting less strategically. So I think one of the blessings coming to you is that I feel like it's funny. This is such a different energy from last quarter, but I feel like instead of having this really big plan in place and making sure that you are, following all the protocol and you're making sure that you do everything according to that plan or whatever. This card is saying that you can just use your intuition. You can just like flow with things rather than trying to maybe control things or like get ahead of things. Like I'm really feeling like you guys are going to have the right answers come to you at the right time without feeling like you need to really grip and control and anticipate and get ahead of everything in order to do that. So yeah, it's almost like maybe strategizing is going to happen on an intuitive and unconscious level. And you're just going to have these like brilliant ideas or these things just come to you out of the blue and you listen to them and it has that really strong kind of propelling energy forward without having to do all of this like market research and I'm going to do this. I want to make sure I have the best, like let's say like you're house shopping. If you do buy a house, like I got to make sure that like I got to look at the, properties around here and look at the schools and I got to make sure that, all these things align. It's like, what if you just toured houses and went with the one that your intuition told you and then it already had those metrics or those things that you would have been looking for, right? It's like you get the same outcome with a lot less energy. The Hanged Man, I also think that you guys are going to have a chance to rest this quarter. I think if you've been moving really, really quickly with that Knight of Swords in reverse in this card, I think that you're going to have a chance to finally pause. Maybe you get to go on vacation, or maybe you literally just get to do nothing. And it feels like such a blessing to be able to take some time out and just self-reflect and think about your life and think about what's ahead and connect maybe more with your guides and your intuition. Again, I really see you guys being able to relax. The King of Cups in reverse, I feel like this is you allowing yourself to have an emotional release. If you've been holding on to things emotionally, if you've been putting it off on the back burner to process at a later time because you've been busy or because you have a lot going on, I can see that you're going to finally allow it to catch up with you and just let it go. And because you're doing that, I actually see you being really in control. And with the Emperor card, like I still think that you're going to get a lot done, but I think you're going to get it done in like half the time because I think emotionally you're not holding on to as much weight. I think you are allowing yourself to rest, allowing yourself to pause. I think you're not feeling the lack so much in the sense that like you have to work so hard and strive so much just to get a little bit. Like I'm sensing this shift where maybe you do see lack in the world in general, like with the Empress in reverse, maybe that's something that you're witnessing. But again, I don't necessarily know that you're personally being affected by that. It's more this energy of like, I see that there's problems in the world and I want to do something to help. And instead of prioritizing myself, I am connecting more to my soul and to spirit and to what I could be used for as a vessel in the world to support those who are suffering, to support those who are lacking. And I can see you gaining quite a bit of firmness where you are creating a container to be able to maybe produce the things that you need to produce from this kind of leadership position while still resting and still trusting your intuition and still flowing. So I feel like I did not explain that completely clearly, but this is like a boss bitch energy. The Emperor is a leader. The Emperor is the one in charge. They have a schedule. They have things in order. They have expectations and standards that they meet. So I see you still complying with all of that. But I think it's coming from a place of greater altruism of like, I know that I can help people in this way if I can accomplish this. So I'm going to get up and do the things that matter. But you're not like forcing and pushing and whipping yourself into productivity to do that. I see you having a very slow and balanced perspective. And I actually think that it's going to lead you to greater success, greater prosperity, greater leadership, greater visibility because of this ability to like slow down a little bit. So yeah, I think that this is a very spiritual experience, but yet, and like you're not prioritizing the material as much, but you're still the emperor, which navigates the material world with a sense of authority and control and, you know, discernment and discipline that's still really admirable. So I don't think that you're giving that up, but it's becoming a lot more nuanced and not the be all end all. That is becoming like a way to get to a higher, loftier goal to help the world rather than the emperor itself being the goal. I really hope this makes sense. In my head, it makes sense. So that's what I'm seeing for quarter two for you guys. This feels very spiritual, very significant. So let's go ahead and move on to quarter three. All right, so quarter three for Virgo rising and Virgo sun is from July to September. And I will be honest, this period seems very chaotic for the general astrology. And I definitely think that you guys are going to be feeling this on a personal level. I think all of us are because it's just what's happening at the time, unfortunately. So one of the things going on is on July 20th, we're going to have a Jupiter opposite Pluto, or Jupiter and Leo opposite Pluto in Aquarius. So this in general to me is like there's something that we're having to push back against. So there's some kind of stressor in life, but because this is happening in your 12th sixth house axis, I could see there potentially being some like mental or physical health issues, maybe something going on with anxiety, with overthinking. Maybe there are things that feel overwhelming or outside of your control in life at this time, and it could feel stressful. And so basically this is going to be a time where we really need to go back to the basics, where we're just taking care of ourselves. We're focusing on the simple things and, you know, doing what we need to do to ensure our mental health is okay. So you might have, again, some larger forces at play in life at this time that may make you feel at times powerless or frustrated or weak or anxious. And again, we have to really come back to ourselves so that we can try to stay as grounded as possible. On July 27th, we're going to have the North Node move into Aquarius and the South Node move into Leo, which is entering into your 12th house. So I'll do a whole separate video on this. So I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's a whole thing of itself. But the North Node in your 6th house is going to indicate a general need to prioritize one's physical and mental health and to look more at like the details of your everyday life. Whereas the South Node moving to the 12th can equally be a very spiritual experience. You might have more time that you spend alone potentially, or you might have things that end up leaving your life or might have shifts in your kind of spiritual beliefs and whatnot. But there's generally this interesting balance between being in the world and of the world and more of like a spiritual world. So again, I don't want to get super into this, but I definitely think this is going to indicate that there will be many transitions in the years ahead, in the year and a half ahead, with the nodes shifting signs for you. We're also having the Leo solar eclipse on August 12th, which is happening at 20 degrees. So if you have any planets around 20 degrees of the fixed signs, Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, or Scorpio, then this is going to impact you more than everyone else. A solar eclipse is a new moon, so sun and moon together at 20 degrees. And again, it's in the 12th house. So this could be a time in which, again, some of the things that are leaving your, like some of the things I talked about that are potentially leaving your life could leave around this eclipse. That doesn't mean that it's all going to be bad. Certainly not. But I do think that there is, again, typically with the 12th house, there is some energy of things being outside of our control. So like having a loved one pass away, or having a job that lets you go, or a job that changes management. And so there's things that are shifting that are outside of your control, going through periods of transition, having spiritual awakenings and realizing that you need to change your career path or your journey with something. Maybe you have some kind of like creative enlightenment happen during this time. So there's a lot of things that can happen, but in general, there's usually some quality of gaining spiritual perspective, but losing something in the material realm. And I can really see that in the cards, which we'll get to in a second. So again, I think many of us will be going through some kind of transition. Oftentimes people will like have maybe hospital stays with the 12th house. Like maybe you are in the hospital or your loved one's in the hospital or things like that. I'm not trying to say that everyone's going to get sick and die and all this, but I'm just saying there are these major kind of moments of transition if you have planets here that reflect the need to pause, the need to come back to yourself in the spiritual sense and take care of yourself, because again, things are going to be shifting in ways that I think are going to be maybe potentially feeling negative. I don't think it's all negative. I think there will be positive things that come from it, but there are going to be some scary feelings that could come from it too. But we'll get more into that when we get into the cards. On August 28th, we have a Pisces lunar eclipse. So this is going to be happening in your 7th house. It's a full moon when we have a lunar eclipse always, and it's happening at 4 degrees of Pisces. So you guys could have some major changes in relationships. This is a really interesting one because it's squaring Uranus almost exactly, which is in your 10th. So there could be some really major changes in your career or relationships with your parents or your authority figures or your bosses. You could have some kind of change in marital status so that your reputation alters, your public reputation. You could have, just anything that like not only shifts the dynamic with someone else in your life, but also shifts either your career or public reputation, public standing, or authority figures. So, again, having a change in bosses, changing careers, moving, getting married, having a kid, like these are all things that could fit into a Pisces lunar eclipse. I will say it is usually more about like a lunar eclipse, especially in Pisces, is going to often be more about like healing and releasing. So if there is a shift, it may feel that something happens in, first of all, a sudden or shocking way because of that square to Uranus. So things moving really quickly, things coming out of the blue, things developing very fast. Pisces, again, often deals with things that are outside of our hands that involve some level of healing. So, and involve other people because it's in that 7th house. So again, there's going to be there's just a lot of like instability that we can see in this quarter. I think that there's quite a lot going on in terms of, again, transitions and whatnot that are and things maybe leaving or suddenly shifting that could feel really disorienting and physically disorienting for the body and one's anxiety. So I think that's kind of the overarching theme of this quarter. I can see with the cards too, the clouds and the mice card, there's going to be potentially some kind of information going on at this time, I think on a societal level, but potentially on a personal level that may stress you out. So some kind of news that you get, like, okay, this family member passed away, or this job is going through a restructuring and your position's changing or whatever. There's some kind of like news like that I think you're going to receive that you're going to really start worrying about with the mice. Like the mice, the mice, I just think that they can have this kind of granular focus that can be concerned with very little details of things. So it talks about in this deck, a series of problems and losses one after another. Even if each problem seems insignificant, the number makes it difficult to cope with. And it gnaws and eats away from within, and it can indicate illness. So nervousness, loss, breakdowns at home, squabbles with a partner, greed, discord. Okay, I'm not going to go into all the bad things, but basically I think this quarter is kind of negative. Not just like everything is going to be negative, but I think it's best to be prepared for something to be potentially leaving your life and causing some anxiety for health to be an issue at this time because of all the stress. And it could, again, not be one big thing. It could be like a series of little things that start to add up. With the Ace of Swords in reverse and the Eight of Cups in reverse, again, I feel like you're getting some kind of news about something, that something is leaving your life, and you might not want it to leave your life. You might not be ready for it to leave your life. But with the Ace of Pentacles, I also think it's going to start you on a new kind of path. So maybe if you did lose your job, this would be you trying to go find a new job and look at maybe new career paths that you hadn't considered before. Or if you had a loved one pass away, maybe this is getting some kind of inheritance, because Ace of Pentacles is often about a financial or material opportunity. Or this could be, if you have, I don't know, I'm going to leave it at that. But those are examples of this kind of thing where I didn't want that loved one to pass away. I didn't want to lose my job. But now that that's the case, there is some kind of shift in my material world, and I'm having to start on a new path with that. Maybe I have to end up moving houses. Like maybe my landlord tells me you can't stay here anymore. Now I have to move, and now I have to figure out how I'm going to deal with the house now. So there's something like that, the housing situation now. So something like that. And I think it is going to be something that brings anxiety with the Nine of Swords. I really hate to give these negative messages, but I also want you guys to be prepared when you look back on this to know what your advice is. And we'll talk about that in a second. But the Nine of Swords indicates kind of sleepless nights. So you might be have insomnia at this time, especially with this Jupiter opposite Pluto occurring in the 12th, 6th house axis, very much related to health and sleep. So you might find that you're just quite anxious, staying up at night, overthinking things, and feeling a little bit paralyzed with fear. But we do have the Queen of Wands and then the King of Swords in reverse. So I feel like part of this is that you guys are really going to need to, or you will, I think you will get really good at, okay, a couple of things. Like the Queen of Wands is somebody who is empowered and confident and very much like kind of in control of herself and knowing, and she's very good at producing results. Like she's quite creative and a good leader. So she kind of knows how to get people on board with her ideas. She's very intuitive. She's trusting her own instincts with things. So I feel like even though with all this stuff going on, you still have something here with this Queen of Wands. I mean, most of these cards are negative, unfortunately, but we do have the Ace of Pentacles, which is a new financial beginning, and we do have, or material beginning, and we do have the Queen of Wands. So I do think that you're going to have an opportunity that can come from these difficult experiences. But with the King of Swords in reverse, I think that the mind and the communication and like just how the anxiety, I just think just in general, how your thoughts are functioning or how you're dealing with people might be a source of stress. Maybe there is wires being crossed or disagreements between like how something should function or be played out. Maybe you are, I don't know. I can see you, like, again, I can see you maybe having, let me pull a clarifier for both of these cards actually before I go on. The Moon in reverse. Yeah, the Queen of Wands. I just feel like you kind of know something and you're really like trusting that inner knowing of like, I know how to lead this situation. I know how to take charge with this. And I can kind of anticipate if there's going to be a problem. I can kind of feel that it's coming. Like my intuition is really high and I just know. And I'm very, Yeah, I think you're also anxious. I think those things are coexisting. Clarifier for the King of Swords in reverse. Like you kind of like feel maybe something's leaving your life or there's a problem and you know what could happen as a result, or you know what plans could go awry, or you know like if someone's doing something shady, you know their ulterior motive. Like you can sense these things. So trust and lean into that instinct with things. We also, to clarify the King of Swords in reverse, we have the Queen of Pentacles in reverse and Six of Wands in reverse. Why is every card coming out reverse? So yeah, this might be a time where things financially maybe are not doing the best. We do have the Ace of Pentacles, which is a new financial opportunity, but it's not developed, right? So it's going to indicate that there is a new financial opportunity that has the potential to grow. But like if you lost your job, that doesn't immediately mean that you might find another. Like you kind of have to search for one. Or if you have to, if you have to like find a new house, like maybe there's a period where you feel like you're not getting what you're looking for. Everything's out of your budget. Like there's something like that with the King of Swords, like things maybe not going according to plan and it being a little bit stressful and having to make kind of hard decisions is the vibe that I'm getting from this. Having to make some hard decisions. But I think that you really instinctively know as well in your intuition what to do. But I think that the logic and like the mind and the rationale is something that is working against your favor. Your intuition is on point. The mind is not. And I think that those could be causing anxiety if you override one another. Like I can see those competing with one another. And I feel like, again, I really feel like you're knowing something that's going on. Something could be revealed with that Jupiter opposite Pluto on July 20th. There could be something revealed to you, or even that Leo solar eclipse. There could be some kind of secret revealed or information revealed. That's what I'm seeing. Some kind of information that's coming to light. Something that you are becoming aware of. And this is saying, your advice is saying like to trust your intuition about it. And it's going to also require you to make changes to your life. So if you do, like if the information comes out that there's a change in management and you're going to, like things are going to change at work, and then you just have this feeling that they're going to let you go. Trust that feeling and look for another job or look for another opportunity that you could grow into. Like make the change based off of your intuition and listen to that instinct instead of just thinking logically like, oh, well, they said they're not going to make changes to the employees, so I'm just going to believe them. No, it's like you feel that something is going to happen and it's going to eventually reveal itself. So trust your knowing with that. So sorry for the difficult reading for this quarter. I'm a Virgo rising, so obviously I don't want this message, but it is what it is. And I'm going to be honest. So the blessings. We have the Queen of Swords in reverse and the Judgment upright. Interesting. So the Queen of Swords in reverse, again, all these like swords cards are in reverse. The swords, which is the mind, the quality of the mind, are just not working well in this quarter from July to September. It makes sense with all these eclipses. It makes sense with all this 12th house energy, 6th house energy. There's just anxiety here. But this is a gift, right? This is a blessing. So there's something about this where I almost feel like again, let me pull a clarifier, but I almost feel like with the Judgment card, that's a card of awakening. So, okay, I'll just tell you what's standing out to me. The Queen of Swords is a card that can be quite cold and bitchy, and the Judgment card can also be quite judgmental. So, like, these both can have this kind of like lack of emotional energy, but I almost feel like you might be able to tap more into that to make hard decisions. It's like getting almost like being kind of cutthroat, but with the Queen of Swords in reverse, it's like not letting people sway you, like being able to make these hard calls or stand against something that you need to stand against, or like make really important decisions or hard calls. Like, let's say for example, you this is a horrible example, but let's say like you had somebody in your family or like a pet or someone be sick, and then you have to like make the decision of like, do we put them to sleep? I mean, obviously you wouldn't do it with a family member, but like, unless they were, I don't know, on a ventilator, and you're like, I have to make the decision in this regard of like how I'm going to navigate this. Like I have this, there's no right answer. There's no easy decision. There's no like satisfaction from making the decision, but I have to make it. I have to make the judgment call, and I have to trust my judgment. With the Queen of Swords in reverse, I feel like this might represent being able to be cold and calculating in a way that is going to give you the best possible like results, which is not, again, each of these quarters is so different. It's like you're having a different year every quarter. The clarifier is the Three of Wands. I feel like you guys might decide to like leave or branch out or go to that new horizon. And then that's what I was kind of seeing with that job example. Like, oh, there's a change in management and I feel it coming. I'm anticipating this potential for things to not go well. Either what's left of the company is going to be so different than what I want that I don't really want to be a part of it. Or this is just an example. Or I'm just recognizing like issues on the horizon. I see it coming. And so I need to like remove my emotions and my loyalty to this company and to these people here and to my friends at this company. And I need to just do what I need to do for me. And that's think about what is the next growth opportunity. Where is going to be the best fit for this thing? And it's like, I kind of have to be a little bit emotionally detached in order to make this decision, like a business decision, right? That's kind of what I'm seeing here. It doesn't have to be related to business, but I'm seeing you having to really like rely on your judgment. And so part of the blessing here is being able to kind of get out of your heart a little bit when it comes to making important plans or important decisions that may affect others, but you really have to be like holding the line with that. Is there another message here, Spirit, that I'm not seeing with these cards? Is there another message? We have the Five of Wands. Yeah, I think that there's some kind of like fighting potentially, like people will disagree with you. People will not see eye to eye, or maybe you have to fight for something or on behalf of someone or something. And I feel like you kind of have to be in that like cold-hearted energy of like, I'm doing what is best for me, period. I can't be in this place of empathy and love like I was last quarter. Like I need to be in a place of, you know, what is my instinct telling me in this situation is the best way to move forward. I'm going to listen to that, even though it might cause me anxiety to prioritize my own interests. I need to do that because this scenario is too serious to think about other people and let them sway my judgment. So that's part of the blessing, is being able to be maybe more combative and less affected by others' like thoughts or others' emotions, and have more maybe boundaries because you're trying to grow something. You're trying to maybe move forward with something or move on from something. And you can't do that if you're holding on to the dead weight of the past, to death in reverse. Like you have to like maybe cut somebody off or say no to something or leave something, or again, make a difficult decision that feels hard to do. The death in reverse is often like, I'm not ready to make this decision, but I see you guys being able to have some kind of like awakening moment where like, this is it. I have to decide now. I have to do this now or never. And I see you doing it. The other blessing that's coming through is the Six of Cups and the Four of Cups. And to clarify this, I got the Three of Swords in reverse and Three of Pentacles in reverse. I feel like you guys are just, if something's going on with like family or with colleagues or coworkers or like other kinds of relationships that you've been involved in for a while, or maybe something going on from your childhood, again, with family or with children, I see you guys like emotionally detaching from it and healing and moving on from it. So like if you've had some family issues or some squabbling in the family or a disconnect within the family, or feeling like isolated within the family, or this could be other relationships that have been really long standing where they almost feel like family, even if it's people you've worked with for a long time, but it's like you see them every day. That's like a family at that point. There's something here where I see you like letting go of the emotional charge around that situation and being able to like heal the fact that like maybe you're not so compatible in certain ways, or you have, like you're not working together always the best in certain ways. And I see you healing from that. I see you letting go of that emotional charge. So you're not as like fervent about, oh, I really hate that person because they're always saying this or doing this. It's like, no, I'm whatever. I'm over it. Like, I don't want to hold on to those feelings. I don't want to hold on to the resentment. I don't want to hold on to all this because it's just too much of a burden and it's not in my best interest, right? Anything else about this, Spirit, that I'm not seeing? So there could, for some of you, let me ask, is there going to be a reconciliation or like an improvement in those relationships? So we have Justice in reverse. So I don't know that there's going to be like a full, like Justice upright is like, okay, we're coming into a fair reciprocal relationship. Maybe you still feel like you're not in a balanced reciprocal relationship where you're on the same page. Maybe you feel like, okay, we're still really different people. They're still not always treating me fairly, or they're not like listening to me when it's not fair in certain ways. But I think that even with that, I think that the emotional charge around it is reducing. So there could still be a relationship that you have with this person, even despite the lack of fairness. I think that you could just move on from it and let it go. Maybe you won't feel like a lot of closeness because of that, because if you feel that things are unfair, it might be hard to like get really close with that person, right? But I still think that there's not going to be this like animosity towards anyone from the family if this is about family or that close relationship. Anything else about this, Spirit, that I'm not seeing, like, or any advice about this? We have the Knight of Pentacles. Yeah, I think it's mostly about coming back to stability. How do we create like stability and consistency in the relationships? Even if that means that we don't engage as much, we still can have, even if we're engaging less with them, we can still stabilize the relationship. That doesn't mean that we'll never see them or never interact with them, but maybe you need to have only some time with them to be able to have stability, right? Like, so I'm seeing this stabilize. I think that relationship will stabilize, or at least if you decide to not have a relationship with that person, I think that the stability will still come, right? It's like there's not the emotional back and forth. It's like, okay, things settle into what they're used to being, or things settle into what they should be in a way, or what they're going to be for a long time. The dust settles. So if there was like an issue in the aftermath of it, it's like you're letting it all go, and you're just, maybe I'll see that person on holidays and every once in a while, and I'm not going to like worry about it, right? So that's kind of what I'm seeing. So I think really we're going to have to be adaptable in this quarter. I think we're going to have to maybe be less emotional in this quarter and doing our best to take care of our physical and mental health, because I think that's going to be all right. And quarter four for Virgo, this is going to be October through December. The one major astrological event I want to discuss is the Venus retrograde happening from October 3rd to November 13th. So I'll just move the chart forward way too fast. So this is going to be a retrograde from Venus retrograde from 8 degrees of Scorpio to 22 degrees of Libra. So this is going to be in the third and second house for you guys. So there is likely going to be some potential disagreements with Venus in retrograde in the third, maybe miscommunication, not seeing eye to eye, emotional experiences that come out in one's language, confusion around decisions, and maybe saying things that come again from an emotional place. And then when it retrogrades in the second, you could be looking at your money, you could be looking at your priorities, at your values, and seeing if those really match up with what you're doing or with the person that you're dating or married to or people around you. So a number of examples you could find if you're working in a place and you don't agree on how something is being handled. There could be some issues that come up. Maybe you guys have different perspectives and priorities, and again, maybe you communicate about it, but it's like you're not really reaching a conclusion, you're reaching an impasse, and it could feel like things kind of drag on. So it's not going to be until Venus goes direct after the 13th that things start to smooth over. And in particular, Venus won't actually pass that 8-degree point and make some real progress around whatever this issue is until mid-December. So that's when we're really going to start to see the issue resolve itself. So if there is some kind of like conflict with the people that you work with, for example, or with a sibling, or a misunderstanding with somebody that's a friend, that could be fully resolved by the middle of December. So let's go ahead and this could also be with like school and classmates and disagreements about things like that. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the cards that I'm seeing. So I pulled the book card and the owl card, or owls. So the book, this could be relevant for people who are writing a book. Maybe this is indicating that you finish it or that you're working and making real progress on it right now. The book can indicate having to learn something or be dealing with teachers and institutions like that. Maybe you are gaining more valuable information. Venus retrograde in the third could indicate that the information that you have is faulty and that you need to consider something from a new perspective. Maybe you need to go out and talk to legal counsel or a different type of individual that in order to gain a better perspective on a situation. So there's a focus in this quarter and a theme around expanding our knowledge, expanding our information, and reading, learning, teaching, all of those things. We also have the Owls card, which speaks to, again, maybe some kind of like mentorship that's happening here, or a partnership and some kind of support system. It can indicate really leaning into your intuition. So you're gaining facts, you're gaining knowledge, but you also are going to have really strong intuitive insights in this quarter, and Venus in Scorpio can represent that as well. So it's saying to tackle whatever this like communication or mental issue is, to tackle it through both intuition and logic. So learning more, like researching more, but also trusting your intuition that you know kind of the right way to handle something, but also seek mentorship, seek guidance, seek counsel from somebody who has more experience over some issue than you do. So let's say you are having an issue with school, like your schoolmates or with your workmates or with certain friends or maybe siblings or family members. What is the issue about, and how can you learn more about it so that you can communicate more clearly? This could even be having a therapist, simply, where you're like, okay, let's talk through this, the pros and cons. Let me see their perspective. Let me see what information I'm missing, that type of thing. So that's going to be really relevant here in terms of an overall theme. And again, if there is maybe people being on different pages, or a lack of clarity with something that's important where you need to make a decision, or maybe again some relationship communication breakdown, or some confusion, then I really think that all of it is going to be starting to resolve mid-November and fully resolved around December 17th. Okay, so what else is going on? We have the Ten of Swords in reverse. So something in your life is coming into a definitive end, whether you like it or not. The Ten of Swords upright indicates that there's not a resistance around the ending, like it is just ending. But when it's in reverse, it can indicate almost like, when this card is kind of like your soul leaves your physical body and goes on to another realm. Well, what happens when you resist that? Maybe you feel like you have unfinished business. Maybe you feel like you don't have closure, and then your soul is kind of lingering in this liminal space, this purgatory, right, of like confusion and doubt. So it could feel like during Venus retrograde that maybe there's a relationship ending or some kind of cycle ending, or maybe you have to make a decision or close something out. Like if you're writing a book, you have to write the ending to the book and you have to decide it's done. And sometimes it can feel like it's never really done, or that there's never really like a definitive feeling that everything's complete and tied in a bow. That's the feeling I get with this Ten of Swords, is that there's a lack of closure and this lingering feeling that it could be done, but it also feels like it's not. So there's a resistance towards an ending, but it has to end regardless. So that's one of the things happening. We have King of Swords in reverse again, and we also have Queen of Swords reverse again. That's a carryover from the last quarter. So the same themes are likely to reappear in this one. So there's likely a stretch over time between these events where they're still going on and they're not totally cleaned up. And that could also represent the Ten of Swords in reverse, where something is coming to an end, but it kind of still lingers within our psyche, within our mood. Its impact is still in our day-to-day life, even though we don't have that event still taking place or that person still in our life or whatever it is. It's still like present within us in some way. So the King of Swords in reverse, yeah, I think that communication issues could be at the heart of what's going on, and people might be prideful, especially with this like Venus and Scorpio energy. People could be coming from a wounded place and not realize that the decisions that they're making or the way that they're communicating is actually maybe toxic or coming from, again, a hurt place. And so I think that the King of Swords in reverse could indicate the ability for words to cut, or for people to be demanding or pushy, or for there to be some just sort of, again, issues with people without us maybe even fully realizing. Or we could be that person where we're the ones pushing, we're the ones demanding, and so we might not realize like how we're coming across. So that's something to keep in mind, especially with the Seven of Wands following it. This is like, I'm gonna beat you down because I'm right and everyone else is wrong, and I'm stubborn and I know that I'm self-righteous and sitting on this high horse, and I'm gonna fight for what I believe. And it's like, I don't know, I almost feel like that's going to just cause more issues. So yeah, I just see people, and you might be like this, or both parties might be like this. I just see really people sticking to their guns and not communicating in a clear way, coming from a wounded place, but really riding hard for those opinions. And I think that when Venus retrogrades into Libra, maybe we'll start analyzing, maybe I've been too much of a people pleaser. Maybe I haven't stood up for myself enough, and that person's bulldozing me, or vice versa. Maybe I am being too harsh. Maybe I need to be more compromising. Maybe I need to reflect on how I can make this work for both of us. So there is something going on here like that, where you might need to be more understanding. We have the Star in reverse. So I feel like this energy could feel quite hopeless. Like you might feel like if you're in a relationship, or if you're arguing with your classmates, or with your workmates, or again, whoever this is involving, you might not see the way out. You might not see that there is a solution when it's happening. You might feel like, how are we ever going to resolve this? The only way forward is to leave. or there is no way of fixing what's already broken. Like I could see some of that hopelessness coming through, that despair coming through. But I really feel like it's going to turn around in that mid-December range with the Magician and the Judgment. I think you're going to recognize that there was always a solution, actually. The Magician is somebody who's always had the necessary tools to accomplish their aims. So I think you're going to recognize that actually, whatever the issue is here, we just maybe have to move some stuff around, or we have to maybe compromise or see from that person's perspective, or maybe we just have to tweak this little thing and everything is actually okay. The foundation of the relationship doesn't have to be completely thrown out. It's just some finagling or adjustments that need to be made within that foundation for things to improve. So, or if this is not related to another person, if this is your own ideas and like your own mind and certain decisions that you have to make, maybe you are maybe you're coming from a dysregulated mental state, and you've been kind of like having to fight off maybe depression or the sense of hopelessness, the sense of despair that I'm not good at this isn't working, I'm not making the right decisions, I don't know how to go about this. Like there could be that internal dialogue where you're fighting with yourself, but I see you coming into a place where you have this awakening where you're like, actually, I know what I'm doing. I'm actually more capable than I realized. And this, again, this judgment, this awakening of, I know the best decision. I know what I'm doing. I know how to succeed with this thing, or I know how to resolve this issue. I'm having this awakening, this realization within this relationship and how to overcome the issue. So I'm seeing this kind of full circle moment. If this is either internally with yourself or with another person, it's going to be resolved either way. And like a full awakening where you come to the light after being in the dark. So what's your advice? We have she who questions, curiosity, destiny, and search, and she who doubts, fear, wariness, and trust. So this is Spirit saying, I think that you're going to have some issues around trusting something. You're going to doubt something, maybe yourself, maybe another person, maybe an institution. Again, it's all going to differ from person to person. But there is some level of doubt of like, again, can I do this? Do I know what I'm doing? Or I don't believe them. Like what they're saying isn't right. I don't trust what they're saying. We're having emotional issues. We're both projecting around this thing and we're not trusting one another. There's that energy happening, but this is your advice to come back to a sense of curiosity and questioning. Question what you know, question what that person knows, question the situation instead of coming at it from projections or hard and fast certainty with the 7 of Wands where you're fighting for what you know is right. It's like, what if we use this opportunity where we're experiencing doubt to dig a little bit deeper and question what the problem is and how we can fix it rather than making it so it's like, oh, I doubt them or I doubt myself, so it's all not working. We got to throw it all out. It's to the curb with you or with this. No, it's like I'm going through this period of self-doubt or doubt around this relationship or this communication. And I'm also going to ask questions and go on a journey with myself internally and with this person to come to a compromise, to come to a conclusion, to see around the issue. If this is a relationship issue, like maybe you're not sure if someone's being faithful or if you can trust what somebody is saying, instead of projecting those fears and just saying, I don't trust them, asking questions, getting in more information, communicating clearly what your needs are, why you feel that way, and resolving it to create a stable foundation. Again, that can be with someone or with yourself. And I think, again, the full resolution will happen mid-December. So relationships do this. Relationships break down and then they rebuild or repair. And this is an example of that. So what is the gift of this period? The Queen of Swords in reverse. This feels like the gift is that you're not going to take what you know for granted. I see you, again, questioning things and not assuming that you know everything. So you might start off thinking that you know everything, but the gift at the end of this is that you're going to reconceptualize something. You're going to question yourself around something so much that you open up to a new perspective, a new way of seeing something that is going to bring in a lot of light, a lot of clarity, and it's going to help you plan the way forward with the two of Wands. You're going to see the way out of a problem that you're having. So if it's with a relationship, you're creating a plan to resolve the issue with this person, especially with the Five of Wands, to resolve the conflict with this person. Or maybe it's creating a plan to, if there's inner conflict, it's going to create the plan to get out of that and create resolution so that everyone gets on the same page, or all of you gets on the same page. So like, let's say you're squabbling and fighting over a contract. This is you eventually coming to an agreement where everyone is satisfied, creating a plan where you don't have to fight about things anymore. You're coming to a resolution, or again, within yourself. The other blessing that you're getting is the Ace of Wands and in reverse and Nine of Pentacles. So I feel like you guys are also going to be, when Venus retrogrades in Libra on the 2nd in November, I feel like you guys are going to be really focusing on what can I cut out of my life so that I have more of an opportunity for like abundance. I feel like you guys might be doing too much. You might have too many competing priorities, too many stressors, and it could feel overwhelming. It could feel like you maybe don't have time for yourself, time alone to take care of yourself. Maybe it could feel like because you're doing too much, you can't even like make money in a good way or save money. Like there's something about stability and financial stability and again, time alone and mental stability. I feel like if you're doing too much and you're overextending, you might actually make less money and you might spend more money and you might be too busy to be able to again, take care of yourself. So I'm seeing you guys cutting things out, eliminating the things that are not priorities. And we often have to do this when Venus retrogrades anyway. It's a time where we examine what's important and we focus on the things that are and eliminate what's not. So that's what I'm seeing here is like a fierce independence, being able to stand on your own, being able to really take care of yourself and protect your boundaries and protect your time with yourself and the things that are really important to you, and to be willing to maybe disappoint people, let people down, stop people pleasing, say no to plans, say no to events or opportunities, because you need to protect your peace and you need to have that time to take care of yourself and stabilize yourself and your finances. You can't always go out. You can't always spend money. You can't always say yes. So that's actually a really big blessing, is like being able to slow down a little bit in life and recognize what really matters to you and what's really valuable to you. So all these things are leading back to your major theme of the year, which is wisdom. I think you're going to gain a lot of wisdom through these experiences. And ultimately, I think you're going to have a lot to, again, teach the world as a result of the wisdom that you've gained from 2025 as well. So this seems like a really big year for you guys. Maybe some major career changes with Uranus moving through your 10th. And I think that's going to be a very dynamic time. So I'm excited to see how this affects you guys. Let me know in the comments below as your year develops and you watch or rewatch each quarter reading. Let me know what resonates or what's happening for you so we can all stay in touch. Also, I'm trying to grow my channel. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to double my channel. If you want to be a part of that and support me, please comment down below, subscribe, like and hype the video, share with friends. I really appreciate any of that support, and I hope you have a beautiful day.